Hey, Julie, thanks for coming in studio today.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right, so there's a lot that I want to get to, but you know, with all of the talk of the Trump transition and the names that we're seeing now for cabinet level positions, and then we're starting to see some names for like right under the cabinet level position, I wanted to talk with you about how to unnanify the federal government, because if, you know, we're going to see real change come to Washington, D.C., what does that mean for the nanny state? What does that mean for the culture of alarmism? And what does that mean for these agencies that are sort of driving this culture?
Yeah, one commentator, when he was looking at the list of nominees, was saying, you know, Trump is nominating people that want to dismantle these agencies, and they said it like it was a bad thing, right? I mean, that's a good thing, right? And look, I'm hoping just for less action from these agencies. The FDA has been completely out of control, and not only adding nanny state regulations to everything from the potato chips that you want to buy to the shelf stable frosting that you want to buy, but also just delaying the approval of certain medical devices and medications. So they have a heavy hand on your potato chip choice, and yet they drag their feet on really important life-saving medication. So I'm really hoping that we see some changes not only to the agenda of the FDA, meaning I hope that they have less of an agenda, but a change in the culture. This idea that it's the right and it's the duty of the FDA to tell people how to live. So I think we need a cultural change there too.
You know, and it's interesting because so I just saw a story, I think it was at Hot Air a couple of weeks ago, about I think it was Philip Morris or Altria or whatever, one of the big tobacco companies, and they had just filed with the FDA for a device that uses tobacco, but it doesn't actually burn, right? And it was something like 1 million pages. This was their application. It was 1 million pages long.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, this could be really good because less toxins are released. This could be an improvement, right?
Right.
And it's probably not going to get ruled on for like 1.5 years. That was the estimate. And while this is going on, Barack Obama issues an executive order banning smoking in public housing. This is as he's walking out the door. The former smoker-in-chief, who, smoked secretly, I'm guessing, a cigarette or two there in the public housing of the White House, which is the people's house. No, you can't do that. Nope. If you do that, Mr. or Mrs. American in public housing, then you're going to get evicted.
Yeah.
Although they say they're going to, take great pains not to evict people, just, fine them an outrageous amount or something like that. This is, to me, like the double-sided face of the nanny state, right? So
Absolutely.
On the one hand, we're going to issue regulations, tell you what you can't do. And then the other hand, let's say that there's an alternative out there. All right, so you can't smoke. Well, could you use this device that didn't actually burn the tobacco? Well, not if it's not coming to market anytime soon.
No.
Right?
Yeah, and the Surgeon General just came out with some really ridiculous statement about vaping and about these new devices, which again do not use heat, and that is what the real dangerous thing is about smoking, is the heat that goes into your lungs. And so they've got all sorts of scary things that they say about nicotine and all these other things, that it still is a delivery system for nicotine, and all of this sort of alarmist message about these devices, which again are, if you look in Great Britain, they are welcoming these products as a potential smoking cessation method. That doctors are actually advising their patients to switch over to these other devices. It's not all vaping. They're creating new technology to do this. And so it's really awful that you tell people you can't smoke in public housing, but we're not going to give you any alternatives to help ease you away from traditional cigarettes. So it's not just the two-sided face of the nanny state. It's completely cruel to rob people really of these alternatives.
Absolutely. My oldest son worked at a vape store for a few years, and it was in a college town. And inevitably, on Saturdays and Sundays, when the parents would come to visit their kids, if the parents smoked, the kids would take their parents to the vape store and pick out the vaporizer for them, give them some e-juice, right, or some juice, And like that was a big part of their business,
Yeah.
where kids getting their parents to do something other than smoke a cigarette.
Well-
but we can't have that because
Well,
that means that these college students were also vaping, and maybe their younger brother and sister in middle school. And it also should be noted as well that some of the juice doesn't even have any nicotine in it. My son said it was not
That's right.
uncommon for people to come in and buy nicotine free. They just liked the flavor of this.
Right.
Right.
Well,
But
the other
in the culture of alarmism, we can't think about those
there
things.
can be no good news too, and this is what's so frustrating about the Surgeon General's warning is that smoking among teens is way down. It continues to decline. This is good news, and if student or young kids are curious about this, I mean, they might pick up a traditional cigarette or they might pick up one of these other devices, and clearly these other devices is a far better way to do it if you are going to experiment. So again, it's really dangerous how the FDA is acting here, and again how the Obama administration is utterly obsessed with this issue, and again turning away technologies that can help people stop traditional cigarettes. It's really unfortunate. If they really cared about people getting off traditional cigarettes, they would applaud the development of these alternatives.
Talking again with Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum. So along those same lines, maybe I guess just a follow-up here. Remember when Obama was elected 8 years ago, Cass Sunstein came into the White House, and he had just written that book, Nudge,
Yeah.
right? And it was all about how to create the choice architecture to give people the illusion of choice, but then
Right.
it's pre-approved options here.
Right.
So Sunstein's been gone from the White House for a while, and it seems like he's maybe trying to find a more nuanced position on nudging, even as people on the left, I think, are getting past the nudge. They're ready to start the head
Full force.
thumping.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they think that they're right. They think that these stupid rubes out there in flyover country just don't get it, so they need to have their head thumped.
Right.
And I just, at what point, Julie, can the FDA? Let's say you turn the FDA around 180 degrees. And Washington, the culture of nannyism in Washington changes. What doesn't change? Where do the nannies live outside of the bureaucracy in D.C.? And what else do we have to worry about? Where else do we have to continue to push back?
Yeah, look.
And where are these threats going to come from if they're not coming from D.C. over the next couple of years?
Well, look, regulators are often empowered by interest groups, by activist organizations that have just expanded and really grown. I mean, there are so many activist organizations now for every possible issue and conceivable slight. There is an activist organization. And I've talked about the cycle of alarmism on this show, which it always starts with a study, or it doesn't have to be a good study, and then you get people freaked out about an issue. And let's take the Surgeon General, right? Freaks people out, has all these sort of scary things to say about these devices, these alternatives to smoking, gets people very nervous, gets moms nervous, saying, oh, your kids are going to, now this is a new kind of a cooler way of smoking, so all these teens are going to get hooked on this, and you get people upset, and then eventually the magic words, the 4 magic words are said, and that is something must be done, right? That is music to the ears of any regulator. And so I will warn people that I don't think, I think these agencies have people that are so entrenched in these agencies that it's not going to be easy to change the culture there. And look, Republicans can be just as bad as Democrats in terms of nudging people and thinking that they know better. And so I don't know that we're going to see a wholesale change here, but it is an opportunity to get the leadership, get better leadership at the FDA and pull back a little bit on these things. And again, what we always talk about the nanny state, but there's another part here. FDA approves drugs and medical devices, and they are slow to do so, and people die waiting. What's the risk? If you're going to die anyway, why not let people take the risk with these experimental medications or devices? And so I think that is what's as important is speeding up the process as well as backing up the nanny state, the tendency to nanny the American public.
All right, Julie, appreciate you coming in the studio. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk tomorrow for the Bespoke Parenting Hour podcast, which will be coming up, posted later on in the week.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Julie Gunlock from the Independent. Follow them on Twitter at IWF. You can find them online at IWF.org.